Niall Ferguson is a historian with credits out to there. He was featured on Triggernometry to explain government debt. First, it's important to understand economics is a sensitive topic, one that would be useful to the public and that could affect corporate profits. If the public understood the economy, they could control it. That can't be allowed, so the subject was fictionalized many years ago. Yet real economic structures are easy to understand. But let's have a look at Niall's version. He starts with a simple question. What is money? Well, money is ancient and it works better than barter. So glad we cleared that up. Next, he explores the connection between money and gold. It's the start of 45 minutes covering the details, trivia, and history of cash. What any of this has to do with the deficit is anyone's guess. The first bank started in the Renaissance under the Medici. They greased the wheels. Then came the bond market, which is the basis of government debt management. The sugarcoating is very subtle, and I'd bet money it's taught at Harvard. Next, we hear that Christianity doesn't like lending with interest. This is important because the Jews don't have a problem with it. That explains a branch of anti-Semitism. It doesn't explain the deficit. But expecting a logical narrative from an Oxford historian is like waiting for Godot. Next, there's a take on Shakespeare, which is thrown in to give a classical spin to the proceedings. Now we're on to risk. No surprise, since it's a darling of the financial elite. Investors take risks, and we should all get down on our knees and bless their brave and noble spirits. Amen. They also need to be compensated for that risk. Fergmuffin pivots to the Rothschilds and Napoleonic War. Lost in the drama is the question of whether the risk takers owe society anything when they make their billions. We also don't hear about corporate bailouts and subsidies. FYI, anecdote and cherry picking are common spin tactics. But I digress. Next, he throws shade on criticisms of the debt. They're Marxist and far-right critiques. That's telling them. The public don't recognize the divine workings of the bond market. We don't even understand interest rates. Mr. Foster agrees, and both guys have been lobbing softballs from the word go. Trigonometry is now home base for top-tier spin doctors. This is the appeal to credibility scam. The Fergmeister is an expert. He says it's Marxism, so shut up. Actually, it's a common-sense criticism. Politicians are controlled by finance. They drive government into debt as a cash cow for Wall Street. And the gears are well known. Corporate bailouts, deregulation, Defense Department waste, economic meltdowns, deficit tax cuts and spending, and other delights. Our heroes at the mic don't mention any of this. The 2008 meltdown was caused by something called the interest reset, and there was a failure on the part of some economists. Subprime mortgages weren't involved. That economists are a wholly owned subsidiary of Wall Street isn't mentioned. Instead, the Fergatron complains about Marxism and fascism rearing their ugly heads. He isn't bothered about financial corruption. After many smokescreens, we get to borrowing and the debt. The problem is Social Security and Medicare, and the culprit is old people who don't vote for fiscal restraint. There it is, yet another class war policy. Corporate-owned professors have been inventing these for 50 years. DEI, supply side, and open borders are examples. There are many more. Retirees are an obvious target. And though Fergie is a historian, he didn't notice that Clinton ran surpluses without cutting Social Security. Also, the debt expanded by supply-side tax cuts and bailouts from meltdowns caused by deregulation. But don't let's bother about history. The history of deficits doesn't concern a historian pontificating about the deficit. Supposedly, there are three options: grow our way out, default on the loans, or inflate everything and reduce the value of money. My preferences would be cutting real waste instead of the Dogecoin and taxing the trillions in corporate shelters. But leading professors don't go in for real solutions. They're too busy designing the class war and falsifying the economic system. On a side note, that's the mixed economy, the most successful system on earth with a history going back centuries. It's covered in detail in the Big Book of Propaganda available on Amazon, and it's imperative for the public to understand. Without understanding, they can't control it. They won't hear a word about it from mainstream pundits. Economists feature crackpot theories and formulas. In Ferganomics, the economy is defined with drama and trivia. The masses are idiots, and corporate interests either don't exist or they're disguised as the eternal laws of the market. I've listened to economists lie in public forums for some 50 years. It was inevitable that they would hijack the net. It's also very sad, and the corruption is shocking. But we shouldn't wonder where the oligarchy find their liars without shame. If Ferguson resigned tomorrow, there would be a line of people around the block waiting to apply.